Naomi, why should we not just walk away and do a no-deal Brexit now? Because the EU are treating us like scum, aren't they?
No, they're treating us just as they treat all third parties with whom they try to sign free trade agreements. And they have a lot of experience of doing it, and they have them with lots of countries all over the world, not with Australia, but they do with Canada. And that is often what the government talks about actually wanting. You ask why we shouldn't. Well, at Best for Britain, we've done a very good piece of work with the centre right policy think tank Social Market Foundation that analysed the double whammy impact of this corona recession we find ourselves in. And let's remember that the UK is suffering much worse on both health and wealth as a consequence of the coronavirus. We've got some of the worst economic predictions of any major Western democracy, certainly in Europe. And of course, we've had some pretty appalling health outcomes per capita globally as well. But combining that recession, which some are predicting might be the worst for 300 years, with no deal, would have this terribly compounding impact. And
Where
we
is the
found with
proof
that
of
report that
that?
it would be from our report. This is done by the Social Market Foundation, independent economists, and actually we were the first to do it, but lots of people have done economic impact assessments since. Because what it does is it
We've
looks at
already
which
borrowed £390 billion this year.
So why compound it? You have very different industries affected by a no-deal Brexit and coronavirus. So in particular, a no-deal Brexit would very, very much hurt manufacturing, so therefore would have a disproportionately negative impact on areas like the Northwest and the West Midlands, that so-called red wall that we often hear about, whereas coronavirus is impacting different sectors like
This
retail
is
and
just Project
hospitality.
Fair, isn't it? You're just getting Project Fair back, and I think
No,
actually
I'm
we
afraid
shouldn't be fearful
it's the
now.
chancellor. It's no the chancellor himself, Rishi Sunak, of course, has said this weekend that if there is no deal, he will have to rush to do an emergency economic package and another big stimulus package. So that would probably require a significant amount of extra borrowing on top of what
But
we've already done.
nowhere
So
close to
I don't think anyone would
390
accuse
billion.
Rishi Sunak of Project Fear. He was hardly a Remainer.
But you concede nowhere close to 390 billion.
Well, actually, the OBR and others, including various big policy think tanks and economists from big four consultancy firms, have been saying that actually, while the acute impact on the economy of coronavirus will be relatively short term by comparison to the long tail impact of a no deal Brexit. So really, this is about ensuring that our businesses can flourish, that we can get as tariff free trade as possible with our nearest trading partners. Trade declines with distance, after all, and the trend globally is for much more integrated regional trade. And so we would be really going in the face of all of the trends of all of the other major economies in the world that are desperately trying to more and more trade with their region rather than less.
Okay, well, let Ben Habib respond to that. So, Ben, Naomi Smith, Chief Executive at Best for Britain, says a no deal Brexit is going to be disastrous, and it will particularly be disastrous in this climate of a coronavirus economic crisis. Is she scaremongering there?
She absolutely is scaremongering. The biggest trading partner of the European Union is the United States of America, and it has no trade deal with the EU. There's absolutely no need for a trade deal. In fact, a trade deal, if it comes, as I suspect it will, with a whole load of strings attached, compromising the British government's ability to do what it needs to do for the British people to ensure that the impact of the coronavirus is minimized, will be a disaster for this country. She talks about tariffs, but actually tariffs are a very small part of the cost of trade, and they only get levied on wholesale prices. It's largely the intermediaries who pick up the hit, not the actual consumers. And in fact, given the massive trade deficit we run with the EU, which must be addressed and can't be addressed unless we break free from their apron strings, given that £100 billion a year trade deficit we run, we would be much better off on the tariff front as well, because our government would collect about 13 billion euros per annum, and we'd only be paying out, our exporters would only be paying out about 5 billion a year in tariffs. We'd have an 8 billion surplus, which the government could use to smooth the pain of any exporters. And I saw today, very late in the day by the government, but I saw today in the papers that actually a scheme associated with providing grants for exporters is now being contemplated. So I don't think the imposition of tariffs makes a blind bit of difference to UK PLC. What does matter is that we have a free hand to establish our own industrial policies which suit the United Kingdom, which promote business here, and we're not hamstrung by a whole load of ridiculous European Union regulations.
Naomi, that's the big issue, isn't it? The EU wants to leave us hamstrung. They want to be able to punish us in perpetuity, and they want to control us. And Naomi, we voted to take back control. I mean, you might be laughing, but 17 million folk voted to take back control. Why on earth should we give up sovereignty to the EU for the sake of a trade deal? We don't need to do that. We're a great country. We'll be okay.
We are a great country, and I'm a very proud patriot and who wants what's best for my country. Now, Ben was saying that that tariffs don't matter, that they're an insignificant rounding error, effectively. You know, he's sort of dismissing it. That is not what people who trade tell us. That is not what the lamb farmers in Wales are telling us. It's not what the majority of British business owners are saying and wanting. And they're the people that create wealth in this country, create jobs. You sort of dismiss me as being a Project Fear, but you don't dismiss him as being, throwing out wild numbers, much as the £350 million a week for the NHS was slapped onto the side of a bus.
Naomi,
I've no interest in rehashing any of that. We just
democracy.
have to. We are respecting democracy, and if you want to have that conversation, of course we can, because there was nothing on the ballot paper in 2016 about the type of Brexit, and of course that was the big problem.
Yes, which means that people were voting for Brexit without a deal, in my view.
Well, in your view, quite exactly, and
well,
many people who voted Leave didn't say
yes,
that.
Ben,
and we've had people like Daniel Hannan who said that, of course, we wouldn't be leaving the single market, right through to those that have advocated WTO. There was never a consensus.
But there was never a guarantee.
About
Naomi, let Ben ask you a question.
Do you see any advantage, Naomi? Do you see any advantage for the United Kingdom in signing up to EU state aid laws, competition laws, environmental laws, employment laws, allowing their boats into our fishing waters, signing up to a system pursuant to which the European Court of Justice has say over whether or not we're adhering to that agreement? Do you think all those things, which is what the EU is currently insisting on, do you think they're good for the United Kingdom?
Naomi?
What I think, Ben, is that we are in a negotiation process and compromises will be made on both sides. We've just seen today that the IMB, the Internal Markets Bill, that the Prime Minister has now agreed to withdraw the clauses that would break the law, break that international treaty to protect the integrity of the Good Friday Agreement, that he is prepared to row back on those. And hopefully, therefore, we will see some compromises coming from the EU side as well. What I believe is best is that we have a good a good amicable relationship with our nearest trading partners with whom we have traded.
Would you concede legal ground to the European Union? Would you give them a right to make laws in this country on our behalf to secure your trade deal?
But Ben, when we were members of the EU, which we now are no longer, we had the power of veto. We didn't have to accept.
So what? That's not my question. I'm asking you about the trade deal.
And what I'm saying to you is that the EU is actually a very flexible negotiating partner, and there were.
They don't seem to be it at the moment. They don't seem to be it at the moment. I mean, Naomi? You've got David Davis, the former Brexit secretary, writing in this morning's Sun that the EU has behaved unreasonably from the beginning. He's been in the room.
But he would say that because, of course, he was always advocating against the European Union and has been a lifelong Eurosceptic. So, others
okay. Final word now to you, Ben Habib.
Like David Lewis.
Final word now to Ben Habib.
Well, of course, you give him the final word.
Well, I'm happy. I'll be very short, Naomi. You can come back. The EU has acted in bad faith throughout. It undermined the Article 50 process, which says the UK should be allowed to leave pursuant to its own constitutional requirements. The EU actually stood in the way of that. It connived with Remainers in this country. It connived with Bercow. It connived with opposition members of Parliament. It did everything in its power to pull the rug out from under the UK's feet, and it is out to punish the UK. For them, this is an ideological, political battle. It's not one for trade. Over
Ben
to you,
Habib,
Naomi, if you want
the
2
former
seconds.
Brexit Party MEP, and Naomi Smith, the Chief Executive at Best for Britain. That was a fair debate. Both of you got equal time. Thank you so much for being here. Should the UK walk away from the EU and embrace an Australia-style no-deal Brexit? 03444991000 is my phone number. Tom is in Milton Keynes. Tom, you think we need to stand strong today?
Oh, 100%. I cannot believe some of the dribble I've just heard from Naomi. I don't mean to be personal, but they want to... you may guess from my accent, I'm not actually from Milton Keynes. I'm Scottish.
Yes.
I can state now Nicola Sturgeon does not speak for me.
Good.
But the whole idea of compromise, they don't understand. We should have said on the 1st of June, right, this is what we want, give us it, be prepared to discuss it. If not, no deal now.
Yeah. If not, bye-bye, Barnier. Bye-bye, Barnier. We don't need you. We're going to be fine.
You say to the Germans, we're going to stick... Sorry, dog's barking. Say to the Germans, we're going to stick a 30% tariff on your cars, but we'll not put it on Korean cars or Japanese cars. Apparently, we drink more Italian coffee than anybody else. Okay, Italia, your coffee is going to be 50% dearer than coffee from anywhere else. Italy, Spain, France, your wine is going to be 50% dearer than wine from
Well, that would
Australia.
certainly be revenge. It would certainly be revenge.
It's a negotiating point. Deal with us or don't deal with us.
Yeah. And I think that's the point, Tom. There is just as much for the European Union to lose here, and we should never forget that. Matthew is in Lancashire. Matthew, good evening.
Good evening, Dan.
What do you make of it all?
Nice to speak to you. First time caller to you.
Oh, great to chat. So glad that you called.
Yes, you're welcome. My mum's a Kiwi over in Auckland.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Naomi then. Yeah, she's again. I'm not sure what she's looking at and from what viewpoint. You can name and talk about think tanks all you like, but it's the people who vote, not think tanks.
Well, of course. And Matthew,
vote.
can I be honest? I think
of course you can.
what
That's why I
Naomi represents, and I don't mean to be offensive here because I think she's a very good person, but I think what Naomi represents is the Ramona class. They will never accept this vote, and they will always find think tank after think tank to justify overturning the biggest democratic vote in our history. But it's unacceptable for them to do that.
You said in your shows, disagreeing with someone is not offensive. If me and you disagree, I don't take that as being offensive. But what I do take is offensive is ignoring the vote of the people. The people voted. Think tanks don't vote. They've had 4.5 years, as Nigel Farage said this morning with Julia.
Yes.
I think that's long enough.
Yeah, it is long enough.
You know? It's incompetence. It's incompetence on whoever's part it is.
Yeah, because don't put us through the stress as well, Matthew.
To tie it into COVID, though, now, I mean, come on. They're stretching, aren't they? Trying to.
Would you know my view on that, Matthew? I think that what we've been through with COVID economically this year actually shows how easy it's going to be to Brexit.
Yeah, no, it needs sorting.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
People need confirmation to move ahead.
We need certainty.
To get this country moving.
We need certainty. We need confidence.
We have here.
Not
in all these other countries. We've got a lot of problems here, Dan.
We do. No, I agree. Matthew, totally agree. 03444991000. Should the UK walk away from the EU and embrace an Australia-style no-deal Brexit? So what has the government announced today regarding the UK Internal Market Bill and the Good Friday Agreement? Charlotte Ivers, our political correspondent, with the breaking news on that in just a couple of minutes.